Alright lads, so today we did get our new version update, version 16.4, introducing quite a lot of changes to the Guild Quest game mode, and that's the main chunk of today's update. Remember, it's part of our year-long roadmap as we lead up to the 10th anniversary, and this for the most part is our final update for the year 2024. As with any changes to Guild Quest, as this game mode does offer quite a lot of free-to-play orbs, changes like these can be controversial, but I'll say right from the get-go, I'm relatively happy with the changes that have been made. We have to see how it does play out, and I do want to see some of you lads' opinions regarding these changes. It's definitely not like how it was a year ago when they first added the very hard difficulty and the orbs that we did get got nerfed. Like, objectively, it got worse. In this case, it seemed to be somewhat the same, if not a tad bit better. And maybe now they're opening the possibility of even more difficulties, harder difficulties, that even offer more rewards. I'll talk about what I mean by that when we do get into the chunk of the video, but the main thing you are going to see here with this update is the new extra wave. So essentially, in any Guild Quest phase that we do get, when you do the hardest difficulty and you beat all 5 waves, you will get the option to continue into the extra wave section where you'll go against a singular boss that has significantly more HP, and this will give you the opportunity to get more rewards and also a higher score than those that maybe can't clear as fast as you can. This will potentially add a bit more variance to Guild Quest scores for those that care about that, because I know as of late, as characters have been getting significantly more powerful, even on very hard and nightmare, we're really fighting for milliseconds. Similar, to be fair, to how the hard difficulty was during the 8th anniversary. Now, if we continue to scroll down, they have made changes to the UI, the preparation screen, and one thing I do want to talk about, which definitely can be a problem in the future. It really depends on how Caleb planned this out. But what you can see here is examples, because there's a lot more information in this preparation screen that show the enemies and what attacks they can use. For example, their strong attack 1, 2, and 3, what stat bonus they gain when you kill the potential extra wave level. Because once you kill the first boss in the extra wave, he will come back stronger as level 2. Now, right now in the current Guild Quest phase, and we will do an example run, there's only 2 extra levels, but it seems like there can potentially go upwards to 5 extra levels. And you will see here that the boss in the extra stage can get new skills, like Poise, for example, which I think is available right now, and then we can potentially in the future see Iron Skin and maybe even Dodge. Now, Poise, I don't dislike it. You can work around that with stat augments. Likewise with Iron Skin, just inflict a stat augment, you'll be fine. Dodge, though, luckily we haven't seen it just yet, but it is here in this potential image. I do not want to see Dodge at all in Guild Quest. There's no reason for that. It won't be that bad to a certain extent because we can just give our characters re-dodge, for example, but it would just be very annoyingly unnecessary to add that in this game mode. So hopefully it's just an example and something that we don't ever see in Guild Quest. But let's go over to the Guild Quest screen and talk about what exactly has been changed. Now, one thing we did notice, and we'll have to wait and see how this does play out, but they never announced the Nightmare difficulty. Now, Nightmare difficulty is a limited time difficulty. Whenever it does get added to the game for a week or 2, it is always announced in advance. In this case, it has not been announced. So what this leads me to believe is that Nightmare is now a permanent addition in Guild Quest. It's always going to be available, which means if you can beat it, it means more orbs in any given month. Because before, while Nightmare did become a lot more available, it was only really here for maybe 1 to 2 weeks in a month. Now it's here for potentially all month long. Because we have it available right now, and if we have a look at next week, Nightmare will also once again be available. And what this potentially does mean, it might open the door for the ultra difficulty, because we know that has been, added into the game. It was added when Nightmare was first added like a year ago. It might be a while before we see the ultra difficulty ever get added, but that might be eventually the new limited time difficulty like Nightmare was, last week. No guarantee we even get new difficulties, but for the most part, it looks like Nightmare is going to be permanent. One other change that we did see is the damage boost, and this is definitely one of the better changes that we have seen here, is that what you will see is that no affiliation for having that killer, you are getting a 5 times damage boost. That is nothing new. However, if we have a look at Phase 2, Sternritter now has a 5 times damage boost. One of the most annoying things with the Guild Quest update that we did get, when we got new killers, right? When we had the Sternritter Guild Quest, the Espada Guild Quest, the Captain Guild Quest, is that because Sternritter killer at a base is 40% more damage to a Sternritter enemy when compared to no affiliation, that's only 20%. For some reason, Caleb always had 3 times damage for Stun Rater Guild Quests, for Captain Guild Quests, Espada Guild Quests. And what this meant when comparing Guild Quest scores across all phases, it made characters for these respective Guild Quest phases look worse because they are doing only 3 times damage instead of 5 times damage. So even if a character was actually really good, let's say for example 9th Anniversary Kenpachi, an amazing Guild Quest character, but if you remember when we had the super ultra difficult Nightmare Guild Quest during the 9th Anniversary, Gremmy looked significantly better because he clayed faster, whereas, in the Espada Guild Quest, we struggled. And that was mainly due to the fact that Kenpachi lacks good sides, but at the same time, it's because there was only a 3 times damage output instead of the 5 times that Gremmy and his team had access to. What this basically does mean, long story short, is that it will make the Stun Rater Guild Quests, Captain Guild Quests, Squad 0 Guild Quests a lot easier because now your characters are doing more damage. With that said, the rules are still the same, melee damage times 2, special move damage is cut in half, but Caleb have now added new entry requirements. In this case, if you want to even attempt the Nightmare difficulty, you'll need at least level 30 link slots. Now what this does mean is 10, 10, 10, and you're also going to need a level 10 Transcendent slot. Before, Guild Quest didn't have any entry requirements, and this could be somewhat awkward to a very small extent if we have a look at characters like Shui, for example. Now, Shui is a character that people would bring alongside other Mind Swipers for the main purpose to make them better. Give them 20% more strong attack damage, and then 40% more damage to enemies that are inflicted with an ailment. With this character, his damage output doesn't matter. He's not there to do damage. He's not there to do anything besides provide those 2 unique team buff skills. So what this does mean is that you didn't need to get him to level 10 SP. You didn't need to link shot him to level 10 link shots on all 3 slots. But now if you want to use them in Nightmare Guild Quest, you are going to have to do that. Not really that big of a deal, but to some players, it might mean investing into a unit that isn't really there to do damage, but it would be worth it still because, he's a really good support. I think for most people, it's not really that big of a deal. But personally, I think the entry requirement here is good because that, for the most part, is the standard. If you are going into Nightmare Guild Quest, you want to have a level 10 Transcendent slot. For the most part, you want level 60 link shot level. 20, 20, 20, right? Because otherwise you're like not even beating it anyway. Now the requirements are different for each Guild Quest phase, obviously. For very hard, you only need level 30 link slots. For the hard difficulty, you only need level 15, that's 555. And then for normal, there's no requirements. Now, if we scroll down, we can have a look at the extra wave conditions. All you have to do is clear wave 5. And when you do clear wave 5, like I already stated, you do get the option to continue into the extra wave or just end the run right there and then. If you do choose to continue, you will get 10 more seconds added to the timer, and all your character's stamina will be healed by 30%, which is actually really cool. But keep in mind, to get the time bonus, the 10 extra seconds, all 3 characters will need to be alive. After that, if we have a look at the enemies section, we now have a bigger breakdown of all the enemies and also their attributes. So right now, for example, apparently all the enemies, okay, wave 4 and 5 do have poise. I don't think that's going to be the norm. We saw that last time with the Owetsu stage. It's more so just to promote Owetsu, right? Is poise going to be the norm? It does seem to be the case, so that definitely could be a tad bit annoying. Wave 4 and 5 will have poise, but is that only for Nightmare? No, it seems to be for even very hard. Is that even for hard too? So it just seems to be for very hard and also Nightmare. It seems like poise is potentially going to be the norm, which that, to be fair, could be a problem. After that, we have the extra wave. Now, what we can see here is that, again, extra wave level 1 and level 2, there's only 2 levels available right now. Both of those enemies will have poise. In the preview image, they show that the attribute could change, but right now, both the boss for level 1 and level 2 are just a speed enemy. And once you do clear level 1 and level 2 spawns in, which it spawns in right away, by the way, the enemy itself will get a stat boost to their stamina stat, which is expected. The longer you go in, the more waves you clear, the higher the HP the enemies do get. If you click on the score section, you can see the amount of points these enemies do give you. The max possible score for clearing wave 1 to 5 is 300 million, and then you can gain an extra 100 million by clearing wave 1 and 2 in the extra wave. Now, with that, some other changes have been made. And what I really personally like, especially as someone that does take, Guild Quest seriously, we are an S-rank guild. They've now added a personal record, which I think is very cool, by the way, where you can keep track of your potential highest score for each respective phase. This is going to be really good for guild recruitment because now you can actually see what their highest score is for every phase. It'll make it easier for us S-League guild, at least, if we do want to potentially take you into our guild. But even then, it's just nice to know what your highest Guild Quest score is and what what you need to potentially work on, what characters you maybe need to summon for to improve your overall Guild Quest score. At the top, it will show your highest score, and it will show your overall rank too. Because if we have a look at our Guild Quest ranking, they've now actually changed it. More so in the overall section, there's now the weekly one, but there's also a total score. Likewise, when it comes to the personal score, there's the total one for everyone that's been doing their Guild Quest every single day, every week for the last like 7 years, right? But then now we can also see who has the overall highest score in the entire game. And for the most part, hopefully Caleb actually used this to their advantage. This can make it so they can easily find modders, right? Because now we actually have a number, an account tied to the highest score of all time in Guild Quest, and apparently it's owned by this guy. Is he a modder? I don't want to start, falsely accusing people, but probably is. Now with that said, let's talk about the rewards. And truth be told, I should have probably spoke about that right away. That's the main thing you care about. So when it comes to the treasure box rewards, the weekly rankings, they stayed the exact same, which I'm honestly fine with. The way they've now calculated the score, it's a lot different. So now the max reward is 400 million. What you are going to see here in any Guild Quest phase, and remember, in a week, these orbs are doubled. If you can be all 5 waves and be extra wave 1 and also 2, you can get upwards to 80 spirit orbs in any phase. So that's 160 orbs in a week. And the crazy part is that this seems to be permanent, right? Nightmare is now the potential new norm. So if you can hypothetically be extra wave 1 and 2 and all 5 waves, you are getting significantly more orbs in any given month. Along with that, we now have a new way to obtain quintessence scrolls. These are the new items that we need to take our character's transcendence to above level 10. They seem to be very rare, and we were wondering, how are we going to get these items? Well, now we have a way to get that, potentially getting upwards to 8 in a week. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 there, and we also have essence scrolls too. And I believe there are 2. No, there's 5 quintessence scrolls and 4 essence scrolls, which is kind of funny because essence scrolls should be more available. But I guess the main takeaway, if you can get all the rewards available in a week of Guild Quest, you're getting 160 spirit orbs, you're getting 10 quintessence scrolls and 4 essence scrolls, which is actually really cool. From the looks of it though, for those that are wondering, if you can only clear the first 5 waves of the Nightmare Guild Quest, you do get 300 million score, and that should give you 70 orbs. So technically, you are getting 5 less orbs. Because before, on the Nightmare difficulty, you were getting 75 orbs for beating it. Now you're only getting 70, but now you get the opportunity to get 10 more orbs, assuming you can be the 2 extra waves. But I think it kind of balances out because we have Nightmare potentially guaranteed now, permanent, so it shouldn't be that bad. And alongside the orbs, you're also now getting quintessence scrolls and also essence scrolls, which are obviously very rare items. You're getting some summon tickets too, but that's not really anything super crazy. You're mainly there for the orbs, the quintessence scrolls, and also the essence scrolls. Now with that, continuing on with some information that definitely is worth noting, and in the potential chance that I am wrong about these numbers, I will leave a updated correction in the pinned comment. But what you're going to see here is on the left is the new stats for specifically the Nightmare difficulty, and on the right we have the old Nightmare difficulty. Now to my knowledge, I'm pretty sure very hard and hard difficulty also saw an increase in the amount of HP the enemies do have. And I feel like if you play through Guild Quest right now, you will notice that the enemies have a tad bit more HP, especially the small mini mobs. But what you also might notice is the fact that the enemies have now significantly less defense, more so the boss. Now, for those that are unaware, in Guild Quest, when a boss has a defense stat, for you to deal damage with your normal attacks, you have to have a higher attack stat than their defense stat. And in the meta for Very Hard and Nightmare, it was very important to give your normal attack damage characters as much attack as possible. That way, they can actually deal damage. So if you ever see your character not doing any damage, they're doing 1 damage on a normal attack string, it's because their attack stat isn't as high as the enemy's defense stat. But since now, and again, these could change, for right now, for the next 2 weeks, the defense stat on Nightmare is 2,100. So while the enemies did get more stamina, they're now technically harder to kill. At the same time, you probably don't even notice the extra stamina because you're now dealing more damage on your strong attacks, but most importantly, your normal attack damage characters are now doing significantly more damage. I can't give a percentage on how much damage they are doing, I actually don't know that, but when I was playing through the quest, I definitely did notice my normal attack damage characters doing more damage. In fact, even in the gameplay earlier today with Gremmy, I even said that myself. I was like, yo, Gremmy looks like he's doing a lot of damage. And that seems to be because the enemies now have a lower defense stat. What this does mean is that it adds more value to normal attack damage characters, which I think is probably needed, to be fair. I mean, the general team setup for any Guild Quest phase is usually 1 strong attack character as your lead, and then 2 normal attack damage characters as the sides. And with the enemies having less defense and higher stamina, The final two bosses in the extra wave having over 100 million stamina, having that consistent damage output, normal attack damage characters that are never on a cooldown, is now maybe more important than ever. So it's one of those changes that I don't think is necessarily bad. Again, when I was playing through it, my clear times were kind of looking the same. I personally didn't notice that much of a difference, but I definitely did notice my normal attack damage characters dealing more damage. In fact, when we do an example run in a minute, I think we were only able to beat the quest, the extra wave in particular, because of my normal attack damage characters. So with that said, let's actually jump into a run. So one thing you're going to notice here is that the first 5 waves are still very important when it comes to your guild quest score, because the time that you do get is only factored in for the first 5 waves. Once you get to the extra wave, it doesn't matter. I wasted my SA3 there. It doesn't matter how fast you clear that extra wave. It doesn't. It only matters whether you can actually beat it or not. The amount of points that you get for the time remaining only matters during the first 5 waves, which I think is really cool. So when you are trying to go for a really fast clear score, you want to clear the first 5 waves as fast as possible. And when it comes to the last 2 extra waves, it doesn't matter how long it takes. As long as you beat them, you're getting a good score. So if you are resetting, the reset heavy part is going to be the first 5 waves. It doesn't mean you have to go all the way through the 5 waves and then also try and get lucky with status elements on the last 2 bosses, right? So your main takeaway is that you still want to clear the first 5 waves as fast as possible, like we always do. Now, once you do finish the 5 waves, if you are doing the nightmare difficulty, you do get this option here where we can get 10 extra seconds and we can also recover our stamina by 30%. If we press no, we end the run and we get our 300 million points. If we press yes, well then we go into the next wave. Now for gauge characters, this potentially makes them worse because the gauge does reset, but your strong attack times don't reset too, so keep that in mind. But the enemy does have poise and it's very much noticeable, so let's back up all the way down here. This is where having status elements and also characters with barriers are going to come in a real big clutch. The boss itself spawns in right away, and you'll see that there is a stamina icon at the bottom, so that it's indicating that the boss has more stamina. So we have 18 seconds to go. My characters are staying alive. We inflicted a status element. That doesn't do our Owetu any favors, but it does mean that our normal attack damage characters are able to freely hit the boss without any problems. So normal attack damage characters, I feel like definitely got a buff through this new guild quest change. And then with that, like you'll see here, we got our 300 million points for beating the first 5 waves. I believe we got an extra 3 million points for clearing as fast as we did, and then we got an extra 100 million for clearing extra level 1 and extra level 2. So comparing my score to someone else's score, if they can beat both extra level 1 and 2, the difference is going to be how fast they cleared the first 5 waves. And I think that's definitely the best way to go about it, because if you are resetting for a very high guild quest score, if you care about guild quest scores, if you are in S League, for example, having to try and get lucky and get the perfect attack placement for all 7 waves would be very annoying. It's nice to know that the main part I have to focus on is the first 5, and once I make it through the 5th wave, I can then easily take my time and beat the next 2 waves, assuming I have enough time to beat the next 2 extra levels. And with that, again, that will give me my 400 million score, which will give me access to 80 spirit orbs and also a bunch of quintessence scrolls and also essence scrolls. And that's only for the first phase. On Thursday, when we get phase 2, I get to get all these rewards again. If I wasn't able to even beat extra level 1 or extra level 2, you're still getting 70 orbs for getting 300 million, which I believe is what you do get for actually just clearing the first 5 waves, which I believe we can just quickly check right now, just to double confirm that. So let's go ahead and go in. Let's use our SA3 into the 1. I believe it's quite notable too that the enemies around us have also gotten a bit more HP, or at least it feels like that, I will be honest. And that could be maybe more annoying because you see there's enemies left alive, right? That might be more annoying during the Captain Guild Quest phase, Squad 0 Guild Quest phase, and also the Samurai Guild Quest phase, for example. Because in those Guild Quests, you don't have killer against the small mobs. Only the bosses. But I hopefully think that the 5 times damage that they do get instead of the 3 times does make a big difference. So let's go ahead and press no. That will end the run right there. The quest is being cleared, and how many points are we getting? 300 mil? 300 million. So, seems simple enough. And with that, overall, that's basically our new Guild Quest update. Honestly, I feel like right now I have more positives than negatives to say about this update. It's not like the rewards necessarily got instantly nerfed like we saw last time during our Guild Quest revamp. I think there's a lot of great things to offer here. I like the new preparation screen. It does make things more clear. Nice to know what exactly you are up against in terms of what the bosses are going to use, what skills they potentially have, like poise, for example, which definitely could be seen as a negative. Wave 4 and 5 having poise. Hopefully just a poise. I don't really want to... Iron Skin again is kind of whatever because you're likely going to inflict stat ailments, but dodge, I'll be ready to lead the charts if we start seeing dodge in Guild Quest. The score section is also fairly simple. The way score is calculated is actually very easy to understand. I like the idea of having an extra wave, and through this new system, it really does feel like normal attack damage characters get to shine a lot more when compared to SP units, which obviously more often than not do get the spotlight. I like the fact that when it comes to how the score is calculated, if I'm trying to go for the highest score possible, I only need to reset the first 5 waves until I'm happy with a good enough score. If I'm happy with the clear time, I can then choose to go into the extra wave instead of having to do all 5 waves perfectly and then perfectly doing the next 2 waves to get my best score possible. It's going to make resetting, if you are resetting a lot, more manageable, and that's mainly due to the fact that the time bonus is not counted during the extra wave. All that matters is whether you can beat the first and also second boss. I like the idea that Nightmare is now potentially permanent. It means more orbs monthly if you can beat all Nightmare difficulties. I like the fact that Stun Rater damage, Espada damage, Captain damage, Squad 0 damage is now finally 5 times damage instead of 3 times, which always make the characters look worse than they actually are when compared to the other Guild Quest phases. The entry requirements might be a bit jarring to a certain extent, but I think it's mostly just a good outline of where you should be at if you are wanting to tackle some of these hard, difficult quests like Nightmare Guild Quests. I personally love the new records. Really like the idea that I can keep track of all my scores. Usually for many of us Guild Quest heads, this is done on a spreadsheet. Now it's nice to have it in game. I'd say the rewards have gotten better. I mean, 80 orbs a week for me, plus quintessence scrolls and more essence scrolls. I really can't complain about that. Although there can be a case made that maybe depending on where you are in the game, you're now getting potentially less rewards because the enemies have now more HP. So that's why I'm very curious to see what you'd have to say regarding this Guild Quest change, because from my point of view, there's nothing really bad. But then I can maybe see some players in that mid-game part maybe struggle a tad bit more against some of these bosses and now are getting less orbs. Let me know if you do fit that camp. But it has been a couple of hours since this update has happened, and I haven't seen anyone raise the pitchforks like last time when we got another Guild Quest update. So I would like to say overall, it's a W update. I think there's overall more positives than negatives, and I'm excited to start trying out the next couple phases to see what score I possibly can get. But let me know what you like to think about the update in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.